Welcome, everybody. We appreciate you all being here. We're going to give it just a couple of seconds. Zoom takes a little bit to let everybody come in, so we will give it just a little bit of time. In the meantime, you will see a poll come through. If you don't mind, answer those questions as you're flowing in, just so that we understand a little bit more about our audience. And again, thank you all so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. Awesome. Looks like some of you are joining us for the first time. Welcome and thank you so much again for being here. We really, really appreciate you. Looks like we have a lot of student veterans, a lot of active duty. Welcome, guys. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Candy Tillman. My husband, Kevin, and I, you'll meet him in just a second. We started 50 Strong just this year, largely due to the impacts we were seeing with COVID-19. This is a series that we are proud to bring you every Thursday, but importantly, we're proud to do it because we're bringing in amazing employers that want to share their experience and share some of the job pathways that they have open. I want to thank a few groups without whom this series would not be possible. So we have partnered very closely with 4 universities this fall. And we want to give a special shout out to the University of Arizona, the University of South Florida, the Texas A&M University System, and the University of South Carolina. So if you are a student veteran or a military connected student or a recent graduate, alum, community partner of any of those schools, thank you so much for being here with us. They are close partners of ours, and we would not be able to do this without them. I also want to thank our employer sponsors that are helping make this entire series possible. Those are ADP, Amazon, and Tech Systems, all of which are also currently hiring and are part of our weekly session. So thank you to all of our partners. So a little bit of background, we know that navigating civilian employment can be incredibly complicated for those accustomed to military norms. What we wanted to do was to really challenge ourselves. Is there a way that we could help make a warm connection and provide direct exposure to those in industry that can help you along your journey? And so a little bit about me. I'm Candy. Again, my background is almost 20 years in the corporate sector. This is a special session for me. I started my career at Procter Gamble, and so super excited to have Stephanie here from Procter. And then about 2.5 years ago, I kind of jumped face first into the veteran services space. During that time, I've been very focused on workforce development and employment pathways. And largely that is because personally, my experience with military transition is because of my husband. So I met my husband shortly after he got out of the military and saw the role that finding meaningful employment played in his own transition. And so really that's kind of what drives me every day. And what I know is that while Kevin has his own personal story, every veteran that I've ever spoken to has a transition story, and employment is often critical. So with that, Kevin, would you mind to just say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Kevin Tillman. Kenny, thanks for the intro. Grateful to be on today. And thank you for Marcia and Latasha and Stephanie. Really awesome people and really good companies that they're working for to get you guys all connected, kind of a warm handoff, as Candy mentioned. We started this out. I had some trouble getting, I call it consistent work. I didn't understand how the market worked. I didn't understand how to get a job. Some of you may be further along than I was. I was not in a good headspace and I just didn't care. I wanted to get out. Some of the people are, they're looking at skill bridge. So they're much more squared away than I was. But when I got out, it was pretty painful. And I feel like having a solid, stable job, where I ended up getting a job over at Lockheed Martin eventually, and it was very stabilizing for me. And I have a lot of people that I know that you guys all know and yourself. It can be tough when you get out and you don't have employment, because that's really critical in this world. So I'm really excited to have, to be able to do that transition, or that warm handoff over to these, to the people on the call. But there's also some really valuable information as we go through that talks about things that you may be uncomfortable with, that I was really uncomfortable with. Things like, I was laughing with my wife about this personal branding stuff, and we were talking about it earlier. And it sounds kind of odd, like you feel like you're a nice shiny shoe that you need to brand yourself, or whatever product it is, you're a human being. But there's kind of this similar stuff that they deal with from a branding perspective can be used for yourself in order for you to be kind of picked out of a crowd to say, hey, this person would be of great value to our company. And I think this was invaluable for me when I was going through my transition. But I didn't know it instinctively. I didn't learn it from the military for sure. And, my wife was very critical. Other people in the industry helped me along the way. Half the time I didn't believe them. Like, what are you talking about, man? It's all about team. And they're laughing. They're like, dude, it's your resume. So things like that. I think this would be a really solid call. I'm grateful that everybody's on, and just thank you for joining and attending. And hopefully it's helpful, and whatever feedback you have, we definitely love to know. So Candy, that's my quick little intro there.
Thanks, Kev. All right. So a couple of things that I just want to start out with. This week, we are so honored to have Stephanie Markich from Procter Gamble, Latasha Causey from U-Haul, and Marcia Edwards-Walker from the Mayo Clinic. Here's what I want to share with you. Every employer partner that we bring into these sessions is actively seeking your skills and has military pathways. And so here's the thing, maybe one of them is a good fit for you, maybe not. Either way, what we hope is that the repetitive exposure to the language and the culture and the transition stories that you hear helps to provide tools for your own job search. So again, we want to thank ADP, Amazon, Tech Systems for making this series possible, but we have lots of employers that are joining us every week. Again, our university partners, they want to provide additional career readiness specific to their military and veteran communities. We are also seeing that universities are engagement hubs for their local installations, for their government partners. And again, we're incredibly appreciative to our university partners. I also want to point out, we have some strategic partners that we highlight every single week. VetTix is a partner of ours. Again, we don't have a lot of live events, but when that comes back, community engagement is so important. So whether it's VetTix or whether it's another VSO, please just keep that in mind around how you can leverage the engagement. Veterati is our second strategic partner. Bruce Thompson, how are you, buddy? I appreciate you mentioning that. Veterati is a platform that mentors have already allocated time toward, and these mentors are often veterans that are already in industry. And so all you need to do, if you have questions or want specific feedback, is just opt in. And so again, that's veterati.com. You can search by location, by industry. Huge supporters of Veterati. The reality is you're not going to get everything you need from this phone call. You're not going to get everything you need from TAPS. You have to figure out how to create your own tribe. And so again, please leverage that tool. The third partner I want to talk about is the DoD SkillBridge office. So I already see some questions coming in about SkillBridge. We're going to talk about that in just a second. If you are active duty, please make sure to take every opportunity to leverage your SkillBridge eligibility. It is an awesome way to get exposure into industry. So a little bit more, we do these sessions every Thursday, 3 Eastern, 12 Pacific. We started them last week of August, and we will be here with you every Thursday until, actually we may go a little bit toward the mid of December. We're going to see how this goes. But basically what we're doing is bringing in lots of employers that are seeking your talents, and also focusing in on key topics that we hear from our employer partners that we want to help bring to the folks that are joining us. So again, these are all delivered live. If you can join us live, great. If not, listen, we know life is busy. We try to get them posted on our website unedited within 24 hours so that you can watch them at your convenience. To that, we have replays available in a few key areas that I'll mention. So our university partners joined us on our first session. If you are enrolled in any of the 4 schools that we talked about, I encourage you to check those out. These are veteran and military leaders from your school talking about how and why they're partnering with us. Again, incredibly appreciative to those folks. We also did a whole kind of 45-minute session on getting started with LinkedIn. So some of those basics around setting up a profile, checking your settings, those are all available in the first session replay on our website. We also had Daniel Rao, who is the CEO of Veterati, in to join us. And he just shared everything that Veterati is doing. So please check that out. On September 3rd, the Amazon Military Affairs team joined us to talk about all the pathways that Amazon offers. On September 10th, we had Kevin Werdy, who is the Military Talent Acquisition Lead for Deloitte. He shared what I believe is foundational understanding for any service member or veteran or spouse that is navigating civilian employment for the first time. So again, check that out if you have a chance. September 17th. So for those of you that are out there and have already put some questions in our box around SkillBridge, on September 17th, we hosted a session that was 100% focused on SkillBridge. So you can go and watch that session replay at any time. We had 7 partners in that are all offering national opportunities. And that's just 7, right? We learned in that call that there are 400 plus programs for SkillBridge and thousands of employers that are involved. Last week, we were joined by Microsoft and Tech Systems. And so for those of you that are interested in technology in any way, that could be a good session replay to catch. Next week, we're going to have the entire Amazon team back with us again. And we're going to talk about everything from Amazon Air to Amazon Web Services, operations rules. We are going to also focus that session on acing the interview. And so the Amazon team has got some great content they're going to share. We are also, in case anybody's interested in volunteering early, I will be asking for a couple of volunteers that would like to do a mock interview with the Amazon team live as part of practice and learning for all of our attendees. So if anybody out there is interested, send me a note. Last quick thing before I introduce all of our guests. I see that you guys are tearing up the chat box. I love it. For those of you that are not sure where to find your LinkedIn URL, I'm going to show you in just a second. You guys, I have heard stories already that people are finding new connections because of the people that are posting their URLs in the chat box. I encourage you to leverage this. You'll also see a Q&A box where those messages come only to the speakers. So if you have specific questions for the speakers, please go ahead and pop them into the Q&A box. Okay, quick little tutorial. This is also in the very first session replay and lots more detail if you need it, but so that nobody misses out on making some good connections while we're here. The way you find your LinkedIn URL profile, for those of you that may not know, you go to the top of your screen where your picture is, then you hit View Profile, Contact Info, and there it is. Okay, so then you can just copy and paste that into the chat box. All right, so welcome Stephanie, Latasha, and Marcia. We are thrilled that you're here with us today. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop the sharing so that everybody can see you a little bit better. And I would love it if we could just start with some quick introductions, who you are, what you do. I think, Marcia, if we could start with you, would you mind to say hello to everybody?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Kevin, Candy, thank you for having me here today. I am Marcia Edwards Walker, and I am a diversity recruitment specialist at Mayo Clinic at our Phoenix, Arizona campus. I've been with Mayo for 20 years. I have been all 20 years in human resources, so I have been exposed to multiple areas of HR. My favorite one, of course, in the last 5 years has been recruiting and specifically focusing on veteran and active military. And of course, I'm a mom of two sons in the military, Army and Air Force. So you can imagine the kind of conversation that goes on during the holidays. And so separately, I tell one and the other that, you know, I'm either Air Force or Army, depending who's in the room. But bottom line is that I'm very proud of what they do. And this is why I'm so passionate about helping active duty or veterans find a job here at Mayo Clinic or either one of our other sites in Rochester, Minnesota and Jacksonville, Florida. So thank you.
Awesome, Marcia. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Latasha, how are you?
Hi, I am great. Thank you so much for having me and asking me to be here, to both you and Kevin. As Candy mentioned, I'm Latasha Causey. I lead talent acquisition and recruiting for U-Haul International. So our headquarters is here in Phoenix, Arizona, but as most know, we have opportunities across the US and Canada. I've been at U-Haul about 1.5 years. However, prior to U-Haul, I spent the last 12 years at USAA. I'm sure that most of you know about USAA. So I'm hugely passionate about hiring and helping those that are transitioning from the military. That's what I know. That's what I love from being in that USAA environment. I'm also proud to be an honorary commander for the 56th Fighter Wing at Luke Air Force Base as well for the last 2 years. So again, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Quick point on that. You guys may hear the jets from Luke Air Force Base flying over during our session. We live really near the base. For those of you that are joining us from Luke Air Force Base, welcome. Fun fact, Latasha, do you remember where we met the first time? No, actually maybe the second time. Anyway.
Was it at Luke?
It was at Luke.
I know we Candy is a huge community advocate, and we spent a lot of time in the community at military events, and I kept running into each other. So
that's great. That's right. Awesome. Thanks for being here, Latasha. Stephanie, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thanks Candy and Kevin for inviting me to participate. I'm very excited to be here to talk with everyone. So as Candy said, I'm Stephanie Markich and I work for Procter Gamble. I've been here for 15 years after I transitioned out of the Army. So I'm a graduate of West Point, the military academy. I spent 6 years active duty as a transportation officer. I lived in Germany and in Virginia. And when I made the transition out, I found P&G and I've been here ever since. So I actually have a day job. So while I'm passionate about military recruiting and it's what I post all the time on LinkedIn, that's only a small portion of what I do. I work in what we at P&G call consumer market knowledge, which is market research, data and analytics, and I sit on our Kroger team and I support our baby care business. So Pampers, Loves, those things. So really excited to be here today. So since I started with the company, I actually have been helping with military recruiting since I started. So happy to give some advice, pitfalls, answer any questions. I love doing this kind of stuff.
So Stephanie, one thing I want to share with everybody. So about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years ago, I reached out to Stephanie on LinkedIn. She had posted something and I saw that she was at Procter. And I looked at her profile and I saw that she was working in consumer and market knowledge, which is the group that I started my career in. And so I sent her a LinkedIn message. By the way, if anybody wants to see the template I used, it's on the very first session that you can find on our website. But that was my introduction to Stephanie. And so, you know, it was basically a personal connection, which was we started in the same group at Procter. You know, here's the deal. When I was recruited by Procter, I had no idea what consumer and market knowledge was. And my guess, and one thing I've learned from my husband is there are so many jobs out there. And so part of what we love is having folks that work in business lines come in to just share a little bit about the type of work that they do, because this exposure is so important. So Stephanie, thank you for being here. This is super special for me, a little bit full circle, if you will. Guys, one of the things that I thought would be helpful to start with, we are going to talk today about personal branding and how that manifests itself in your resume, in your LinkedIn engagement. But before we do that, I am hoping to just give a few minutes for Marcia, Latasha, and Stephanie to just share a little bit about their work, their company's currently open roles, and just what are the pathways that if you're interested in one of their roles that you might start with that. So Latasha, if you don't mind, will you just tell us a little bit about U-Haul, the company's history, some of the things that you guys are doing in the community, and a little bit about your currently open roles?
Yeah, absolutely. So a fun fact is that U-Haul is actually going to celebrate 75 years being in business this year. So we're really excited about that. Most people may or may not know the U-Haul story, but U-Haul is a family-owned and operated organization by individuals that were in the military. And so a husband and wife, they created U-Haul because those that were in the military could not get their belongings to and from where they were being deployed and stationed. And so that is how U-Haul was created and invented, was by veterans. And so U-Haul has a long history of making sure that we hire veterans in any and every opportunity that we have. And so the great thing about U-Haul is that there are so many variations of positions. I think some of you will see a U-Haul on the side of the road, if you will, which will be like a U-Haul storage facility. So those are what we call our retail stores. So we have individuals in those stores that are anything from a general manager to a customer service representative. So we hire for, that's called the field operations. So we hire for all of those types of positions within the field. However, you can't be confused by the fact if you see a U-Haul at a gas station, where they are offering U-Haul products, that is not a U-Haul store. That is a dealer. So that is someone who is, if you will, dealing our products and services to offer to their community. But you would be hired by that gas station and not a U-Haul employee. We also have manufacturing as well. So U-Haul creates and builds their own trucks, their box trucks that you see on the side of the roads or on the roads. U-Haul employees actually build those. We have a partnership with Ford. A really extensive program actually, because as some of you may know, it takes a lot to build. And so all the engines, chassis, all of those types of things are already created, if you will, by Ford, but we have an intensive program to make sure that not only we can build those trucks, but that we can fix them as well. So we don't do any third party. U-Haul has such progression, so you can start entry level by putting stickers on the side of the truck up to building a truck and repairing a truck from a field and manufacturing standpoint. But then we also have your corporate level position. So everything from a contact center type of position, if you could break down on the side of the road, you got to be able to call someone. We have all of those individuals that are here. Majority of them work from home, which are great positions for military spouses. We have a ton, probably actually 30% or so of our current employee population are military spouses in those roles because they work 100% from home. And that was prior to COVID. They were already working from home. That's the structure of the position. And then we have your IT as well. U-Haul, again, is a do-it-yourself company. So for those of you who are in development, Scrum Masters, all of those individuals, U-Haul creates their own products and services, your point of sale system, all of those internal IT functions are created internally at U-Haul. And so we have a variety of IT opportunities as well. So I always encourage individuals to go online to uhauljobs.com because we have just such a plethora of opportunities, but there is an opportunity on there for you to select if you are a veteran or a military spouse. In our applicant tracking system, that provides us the opportunity to search for you. And we do give preferential treatment for those that have served. So I always say don't skip that question because it gives you preference over other individuals.
Thank you so much, Latasha. I appreciate that. Guys, again, don't forget, if you have any questions for the panelists, go ahead and pop them into the Q&A box. I'll take just a second. If anybody has quick questions for Latasha. All right. we will, I need to share my screen, 1 second. Again, guys, if you have questions, just feel free to pop them in the box, and we'll come back to any questions for Latasha on U-Haul. So with that, Stephanie, I will turn it over to you to talk about P&G.
Okay, thanks, Candy. Latasha, I learned so much about U-Haul. I didn't know any of those facts. That's pretty exciting. I'll think of that next time I get a truck and move my own stuff, which my husband and I actually did do when we moved our most recent home a few years ago. So as I introduced myself previously, just here's my background and here's my contact information, and you guys can definitely reach out via email or connect on LinkedIn. I'm always open to connecting and helping people and navigating the mystery that's P&G as you apply online. So Candy, if you want to go to the next slide. So first of all, a lot of people are, what is P&G? Like, I don't know, tell me what do you make? So here are some of the products that we make. And as you think about your daily routine, we probably make a lot of things. So if you start your day, I think I went through and counted everything that I used, from Charmin toilet paper, Bounty paper towels, all the way into Head and Shoulders, Aussie, Pantene, Gillette razors. So just think of all of those products, all the commercials that you see on TV, all those products have to be made somewhere. And so P&G manufactures all of the products here in the US. We are a global company, so some of our supply chains are global just because of the nature of the business, but all of these things are made here in the United States. We have over 20 plants across the US. Can you go to the next slide? I'll talk a little bit more. So as we get into the process here, I'll talk about that, and then some of the locations and different jobs on the next slide. So if you guys are interested in applying for a role at P&G, this is what the site looks like, pgcareers.com. It's pretty easy to navigate the site. So if you take a look at the top, you'll see that you can look at life at P&G. There's some stories about people who work at P&G, the work that they do, those different kind of things. There's a link there for hiring process that walks you through that, but I'll talk you guys through that as well as I talk about some of the different job opportunities as well. And if you keep scrolling further on the site, at the bottom, there's lots of stories. There's even veterans and how veterans are contributing. I think the next slide actually gets to that. So on this one, this talks about, just the pride that we as a company have in supporting veterans, the awards that we've won, trying to track the veterans that are within our company. But as I said earlier, you guys are a great fit for all the roles that we have across the United States. So we have plants in California, Ohio, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. A big chunk of our plants are in the Midwest. We have a couple, as I said, out in California, even in Arizona. Our Metamucil plant is out in Phoenix, and then in Utah. So lots of opportunities at all of our plant locations. Our global headquarters is in Cincinnati, so a big chunk of our manager jobs are folks who have doing internships and have got their MBAs are based here in Cincinnati, which is where I'm located. We hire for interns and full-time roles. So I don't know how many folks on the line are still in school. So if you're pursuing your bachelor's degree or if you're pursuing your master's degree, there's opportunities to apply for internships. These are paid internships. They can be between your sophomore and junior year, junior and senior year, or as you're thinking about your MBA program in between the first and second year. So those roles are currently out on our website, and they specify if they're interns or full-time roles. We also do have some part-time roles where folks go in to stores and help stock shelves, and there's a whole description on what those roles are, because if you think about our products, we have to get them to market. We have a wide variety of roles, so our technician roles, manager roles, and as I said, MBA. So if we think about technician roles, the majority of those roles are at our plant locations, which these roles, we seek military folks to come and work in these roles. They're great jobs at the plants. So as you think about all those products, we make everything at P&G. So if you think about the Tide liquid laundry detergent, filling in the container, as you think about coming off the line, being put on pallets, wrapped and sent to shipping, there's lots of opportunities for different roles for all the items that we make in all the plants. So if that breaks down further, when you're going out on our website and you're looking, there's, again, a laundry list of jobs with all the locations, and they'll give a brief description. So as we have product supply on here. So if you think about how we think about our company, it's the commercial side, so our marketing, and then our product supply, which is our more technical making of the products. I won't say all the jobs in there are technical, but we have jobs in manufacturing at our plants. So as I said before, technicians, when we think about the manager jobs, they're in charge of a team. They're coaching that team, improving a process, very good fits for people transitioning out of the military. The leadership and skills that you bring to the table are great. Engineering. So these are a little more technical roles, and we're looking for folks with specific engineering degrees. So like electrical engineering, chemical engineering, and it will say that on the job when you go and apply. Supply chain is another great fit for veterans. So if you think about all the way from the raw materials coming into the plant to the finished product being delivered to our customers, there is a wide variety of supply chain roles, from planning the transportation, the trucks that are taking it to the customers, to filling the orders, managing the artwork on new products. There's just a myriad of different jobs that fall under supply chain. Purchasing, so that is where you go out and buy stuff on behalf of P&G. So if you think about all the products that we have to buy all those raw materials. We also have to buy marketing and things. So if you think about TV, fun fact, P&G is one of the largest consumers of media in the country. So we have a very big influence over the media industry. So TV commercials. So if you see Tide on the Super Bowl, and then a few years ago, if anyone saw the Like a Girl initiative, I worked on the Always in Tampax brands when we came up with that. So think about that. We also buy services. And then as I get into brand management and marketing, this is what a lot of people know P&G as, is the people that work on the campaigns for Tide, that make the commercials, help design the packaging, do everything to bring new products or changed products to market. Finally, as we get down to the data and analytics space, this is a very popular new area where we're trying to bring in more folks with data and analytical skills, data science. I said we buy all that media. Well, we need people to analyze the media that we buy and make sure that we're spending our money in the right places and trying to optimize that. So definitely a lot of opportunities here at P&G. And just real quick, I'll walk you through the application process. So as most all companies, you're going to have to apply online. So I know sometimes folks are like, hey, I just talked to so-and-so. No, we need to get your information in the system, in the system, so we can share it across the company. So that's definitely a step. Make sure that any company you talk to, you make sure and apply online. I will say with P&G, you can apply to as many roles that you find interested. There's not a penalty, just pick one, go on there, look at them. There's some pre-screening questions that you have to answer. A lot of them are like, years of experience, are you willing to relocate throughout your career, kind of just generic things. So answer those questions. Then with us and some other companies, you do have to take some assessments. So anytime that you have to take a test for a company when you apply online, take it seriously. So if you're like busy, distracted, kids are jumping around, you went out and partied all night, like probably not the best time to focus and take assessments. Most companies, you have to pass these to move on in the process, so you need to take them seriously. I can't tell you the number of times people have said to me, oh, those were serious? Yes, we have them as part of the screening process, just because we get hundreds of thousands of applicants a year, and this helps us narrow down our focus to get to the top candidates that we want to move forward with. So definitely take everything serious in the process. So after you do that, this is where with P&G, I would love if we had a veterans block on our application. Unfortunately, we don't. We're changing systems, and we used to have one that you could mark that, and they tried to simplify, and I'm fighting to get that put back on so I could track candidates. But I do tell folks, once you apply, just reach out to me via LinkedIn, via email, and I'm happy to check on the status of where you're at in the system and what the next steps are. So again, after you complete that initial application, pass the assessments, we can move into the interview phase and go from there. And finally, one other key point that I wanted to plug on the next slide, within P&G, we have an official, we call them affinity networks. So we have the Veteran and Reservist Affinity Network. And so I actually sit on the lead team of this organization as well. So the key thing for us is we want to enable P&G to be the employer of choice for veterans and reservists by unleashing veterans for maximum impact and strengthening local communities. So our motto, hire a veteran, grow a veteran, unleash a veteran. So obviously we want to recruit veterans. We support veterans that work for P&G in the Guard and Reserve and continue to improve our policies to make sure that they're top of the line and we're taking care of those employees and their families when they potentially deploy. Grow veterans, so we have a strong mentoring program. We want to bring them in and have them be successful from day one and get their questions answered and just have someone to turn to and ask questions they might not feel comfortable asking their manager or someone else. And then connect veterans. So most of you in the military know everyone loves a good happy hour, volunteer project, lunch. So we definitely want to have that tight-knit community so we can, hang out, tell our war stories, do a volunteer project. Everyone definitely looks forward to these events. And as we actually do them, we sometimes do sessions like this. So we'll have a business topic on, we have a veteran that works in our media group and he did a session on like how media buying works and all the different things that we do and some cool initiatives that we have. And finally, lead in the community. So this is where we give back to our local communities and volunteer locally, do something at the local VA. A few years ago, the National Veterans Wheelchair Games were in Cincinnati, so in July of 2017, and P&G was the premier corporate sponsor. It was one of the best events I ever led for the company. I'm so proud of it. Everyone that volunteered said what a great opportunity it was. So it gave people who really don't have visibility in the company, visibility to veterans and a chance to give back. So lots of great things. Happy to answer any questions that people might have. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. What we'll do is, if you have questions for Stephanie, go ahead and pop them in. I'm also going to let Marcia go ahead and talk a little bit about Mayo and some of the roles that they have open as well.
I was still on mute. Thank you, Candy. Welcome, everyone. Again, thank you for having me on this call. As I mentioned, my name is Marcia Edwards Walker, and I work for Mayo Clinic in Phoenix, Arizona. Mayo Clinic is a nonprofit organization, and we're very much committed to clinical practice, education, research, providing expert whole person care. When you come to Mayo Clinic, any of our sites, you get the full picture. You get the full picture when it comes to the care that you need for healing. Again, I am in the Phoenix, Arizona campus. I do have colleagues in the Jacksonville, Florida campus and also in the Rochester, Minnesota campus and the health system. Next slide. So we are very focused when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And the values that we focus here in regards to diversity is, our goal is to the care with excellence. We reflect on our community, we develop talent, and we increase, we're trying to increase the proportion of women and minorities that lead towards health and equity. We have rich ties, the respect, we have integrity, compassion, the healing. We work as a team. We work very hard in regards towards innovation, excellence, everything, our motto is the care of the patient come first, and of course, stewardship. Our focus, not just on, hiring qualified individuals, but of course, veterans and people with disabilities. Next slide. So as you can imagine, we have, I think this number has grown. We have over 3,000 careers at Mayo Clinic throughout all the sites. It's difficult to list them all. And that's why we share the website that you can go in to see all of our jobs based on the area. So based on the Rochester site or the Phoenix site or the Florida site. But as you can see here, the list of the multitude of jobs that we do offer. Um, and not just these, because Mayo Clinic is not all about nursing or physician. We also need that support, and the support comes from the individuals that we hire into these positions. IT is one that we are constantly hiring for as well, and they're considered enterprise. Some of these jobs are considered enterprise, so you can report to one person in Phoenix but work in Rochester, or vice versa. So these jobs would be absolutely awesome for an individual like you. If you are not willing to relocate, you can stay where you're living. You will be brought in to train at one of the sites, but then you can work from home if that's what the job entails. I will also share the direct, this is the link to find jobs as well, but there's also a direct link that I will share on the chat box, so you can have to go see the list of jobs as well. Next slide.
Hey, Marcia, one thing that I just think is interesting here, and I want to point out for everybody, often I will mention a certain company and I'll hear from service members or veterans. CVS is a great example, right? Oh, I'm not a pharmacist and I don't want to work in the store. That's out of my decision set. And one of the things that I really just want people to see here is every single one of these organizations are sharing a plethora of functional areas for you to think about. And so what you may know of a brand, right, may not translate to the jobs that they have open. And so again, branding is really important, right, for CVS and Mayo and all of these companies, U-Haul. But just like Latasha talked about, there's lots of functional areas for you to explore. So just please keep an open mind to companies. Sorry, Marcia, I did not mean to interrupt. I just
no, absolutely. That's a great point, because when I have coached individuals in regards to their, what they're looking for, sometimes they focus on one thing only, and they don't realize that that job that you think that you might have or you might want, when we look at your resume, we realize that, oh my gosh, you have potential for so many others. So don't be afraid to keep an open mind. Don't be stuck to the one that you just absolutely want to come into.
That's right.
So when it comes to our career profile, so you can apply to many jobs as you like, but if you go into our careers website and you look at the different positions that we have, some of these positions will be listed for until they're filled, and others are only posted for about 3 days. During COVID-19, we did find that we needed to have a hiring freeze, unfortunately, like some other companies. We're slowly but surely starting to remove from that. But it doesn't mean that you cannot start now creating that profile online, because when that job becomes open that you might be interested in, you will be one of the first ones to see it online again. So don't be alarmed that, because you don't see something that you like right now on our website to apply, that it will not be available later. But I would strongly recommend that you build your profile in our talent community, and then this will keep you connected with updates. So because some of these jobs, they fill so quickly, or they only posted for 3 days. If you have a profile on our career site built in with your resume already attached, then you just have to go in and click on apply, and then you don't have to go through that whole process. And sometimes, like I said, it's only 3 days, and the posting goes down because we have a lot of candidates to review. So please make sure that you complete a profile in the talent community. Okay, well, and I kind of went ahead of myself. So create a profile. Can you tell I talk about this all the time, because like I said, it will give you a better chance, to be one of those first ones. Sometimes, managers only want to see the first 20 and there's 40 that applied. If you're one of those first 20 or first 10, then your chances are much better to be considered for your resume to be reviewed.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcia.
You're very welcome. And so these are some of our tips. Again, like I mentioned, large volumes of applicants. I can tell you that when I was recruiting for nursing, there were constantly amount of individuals applying for those jobs. So there are large volumes of applicants. So like I said, make sure that you get that profile built. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes our jobs are only posted for 3 days because it helps us with controlling that large volume of applicants. Please align your resume with what the department is looking for. So don't be, look at the posting and align your resume based on that. And because sometimes people apply for a specific position and the resume, nowhere does it show that they align with what they're looking for. So that's an easy way for the recruiter to not even consider you and move you forward. When it comes to a cover letter, make sure you compose a winning cover letter. This is where you can kind of talk about yourself and really sell yourself to that manager or that recruiter that will be reviewing your resume and cover letter. Some people say, no, I've heard it's not needed, but I always say sometimes more is better, and especially if you have the opportunity to speak about yourself. You do need to apply.
I know you're going to be talking a little bit more about resumes and cover letters in a second. So that's awesome.
Yes. And you do need to apply to each position. So don't be afraid to apply to, I get people that apply to 100 positions. Don't be afraid to apply to as many as you want, because you do have to apply to each and one of them. We cannot move you from one application to the other, as that is not, part of the legal process. The time frame, I get calls, I applied about 3 weeks ago. I haven't heard it from anyone or, any updates. It does vary, because once the recruiter reviews your resume and they forward you to the hiring manager, it's really out of our hands. It's up to the hiring manager to take it from there. Sometimes if I follow up with the hiring manager and I can give them a little bit of background about you, it helps the process speed up a little bit, but it can take a little long. I personally, I'm not trying to scare you, but it took me 2 years to get hired at Mayo Clinic. So, and I didn't have anybody here to guide me. So, so don't be afraid to apply multiple times and be patient. For position-specific questions, don't be afraid to contact the recruiter. Hopefully the recruiter's name and information is posted on the job site. If not, I'm going to say, reach out to me, because I can reach every recruiter. And then of course, for technical supports, if you have issues with your the applicant tracking system, sometimes that happens. You can contact that number there. That is our local number. It's not local, but it's our enterprise number for any issues with our applicant tracking system.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marcia. Thank you. Okay, so guys, we've heard about 3 awesome companies. Hopefully you know a little bit more about each of them. We're going to move into what I'll call our interactive part of of our hour and a half together. So here's the thing. We all hear this idea of build your brand, right? And I think about my husband sometimes when I hear, oh, go build your brand as a veteran. And words that Kevin and I were brainstorming are such thing. Kevin, feel free to jump in. Elusive, overhyped. What is that? Like, where do I start?
There's probably a couple other words I'd have put in there for building your brand.
Sorry
to interrupt.
What we're hoping is that we can give you some tangible tips and some time for you to ask direct questions as it relates to branding your online brand, if you will. We're going to talk about that in a second. Again, we're trying to get down into the weeds to break it down. And because we have Stephanie here from Procter Gamble today, I've chosen a brand to start us off that I think everybody knows at least. And Latasha is going to walk us through a little bit of feedback, not only from her personal perspective as a recruiter around social media, but Latasha also knows what she's talking about in this area. And then we're going to come back to talk about how all that, like your resume is part of your brand, right? And so Marcia's going to give us some really tangible tips. So here's what I want you to do. I have a logo on screen, and I'd love for you in 1 or 2 words in the chat box. What are the first things that pop into your head about that logo? So I see clean, fresh, laundry, of course, longevity. Anything else? Any other ideas? Well recognized, interesting, trusted. Okay. Pods, great for deployment. Wow. Good one, Mike. All right. Pods, laundry. I love it. Reputable. Okay. The color scheme is meant to be eye-catching. Name recognition. Awesome. Love it. Okay, I'm going to give you another example. What's your first couple of words? Just do it. Mike. Athletic, athletes, sports. Awesome. I love it. So here's the thing. And, you know, Stephanie, you are definitely the expert in this space. You know, brands we're starting with this because these are brands that we all kind of know. And so what I really try to think about is, how did they get to that point, right? How did it get to the point that you guys are using words like trusted, consistent, recognizable, like I heard longevity, right? Referenced by others. And so it's not what you say, it's what you do. That's great. I really was thinking about this in the context of big brands, right? And so some of the things that I think about, even like referenced by others, this is word of mouth, this is referrals, right? Are you trusted? Are you consistently communicating a message, right? Are you recognizable? And so if we think about that in the context of kind of personal branding, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. So just like we all have an opinion about Tide and Nike because we recognize those brands, we have an opinion about them. And so I wanted to just take a second and talk about what I think this means for a job seeker. And basically, like, what are your interest areas? Are you positive? Are you open to learning? Are you focused? How are you uniquely qualified to fill a business need? So basically, your brand tells your story to help recruiters quickly understand the value you will bring to your organization. So just like we said, 1 or 2 words for each of those logos, you could quickly synthesize down to 1 or 2 words. And so that's kind of the same thing. We want to quickly synthesize the value so that recruiters know how to connect the dots so that they don't have to do the work, right? As a job seeker, we want to do that work for them. So I'm gonna stop the screen share a little bit. And in that context, I want to ask our panelists, and Latasha, I'll start with you. You know, we're in COVID-19, so everything is digital. So will you talk a little bit about, given that we're all digital, what this means for social media in the job search?
Absolutely. Well, first, Candy, I think even before we were in this COVID space, right, it's always really, really important to have a positive brand on social media. So whether you think so or not, recruiters do look at your social media platforms because that's public information. And so even more so now. So the first thing that I would say is make sure that you are on social media and that you are active. But being active means making sure that you're purposely active. So if you have a certain company that you want to work for, whether it's U-Haul, Mayo, Procter Gamble, whatever company it is, perhaps you're looking on LinkedIn for individuals that work at those organizations, and you actively reach out to them and have active conversations, but know that when they go and look you up, they're going to be able to see everything that you've posted, as well as everything that you've commented on. So the thing about LinkedIn is that nothing's hidden. So you can find everything. So if you have replied, even if you didn't post it, but you have replied on some form of a political comment, if you will, then then perhaps they are going to see that as well. And it's a very hot environment right now. And so you have to be able to be, if you will, politically correct always. I always say stay away from it. It's almost like religious type of things as well on that type of platform. There are just certain areas that you would want to stay away from, if you will, in order to be able to be seen and seen differently than others, job seekers. Right now, the job market is so hot, meaning that you have so many applicants. I will just give you an example. We will have a position that's open for 24 hours, and we will get well into the 300s for one opening, 300 applicants, you know, in the first 24 hours. And so in order for us to find the right applicants through those 300, that's just one day. And at a minimum, we have to keep the jobs open for 3 days. So imagine how many people we are really actively getting. So it is really important for you to have a positive brand, whether you have decided to network on LinkedIn, so that we can go through our applicant pool and say, hey, you know, Candy applied for my job. Let me look at her resume, but let me also look at her LinkedIn and see, do those two things match? Because that's also a problem. If your resume doesn't match what your profile says on LinkedIn, that's a problem. But also, let's see what type of engagement, what types of things is Candy into. U-Haul is a company that's very interested in individuals that serve the community. So how about, is she involved in the community? Does she post things that are pertinent to community and give back as well? So I will tell you that no matter what, it's really important, but I would say don't be afraid to create and build yourself a brand, because the only way that you're able to build a brand right now is via LinkedIn and Zoom meetings. You know, we are unfortunately in this position of where we cannot go out to events and meet people like Candy and I did when we first met. You know, we're not doing that right now. We don't know what that new normal looks like. And so the new normal is to be online, and you need to do everything that you can to clean up your online presence, if you will.
You know, I was helping a manager hire for a role, and it came down to 2 candidates recently, and they were neck and neck, right? Both really great candidates, both great fits. And literally the decision was made based on the engagement. Mm-hmm. One was slightly more positive, slightly more engaging, and that became a tiebreaker. Have you guys, you know, Marcia, Stephanie, have you ever, like, how do you use LinkedIn when people reach out or comments, even like new relationships based on maybe somebody that commented on one of your posts?
So I'll say that definitely. Same here. We've been in situations where we've had to make a decision between 2 very strong individuals, and it is, you know, especially in the section of patient care, so pharmacist or nurse. And so depending on what we see or what we saw on LinkedIn and Facebook as well, we made the decision which one we were going to go with. But yes, definitely you want to be careful what you post, what you respond to. You know, I've had where some pictures that I have seen that people have used as their profile, which is supposed to be their professional profile. And I always say to them, a professional profile. You know, in a bikini and all that does not work as a profile on LinkedIn. So be careful what you use for picture profile. And, you know, speaking about the new normal, we do a lot of interviews via Zoom now. And one of the things that I have given feedback on is the fact that people need to be careful what they have on the background when they're interviewing, because you want the individual to be focused on you, not what's going on in the background. Be it picture, be it, you know, kids, you know, running around, or dogs, you know, showing. So it's just it's a new way, but it's something that can make it or break it, definitely.
And real quick, Candy, I want to comment on something that is really important that Marcia said. So we do check all platforms. So let's be really clear on that. So she mentioned Facebook, but there's also Instagram, there's also Twitter. And if you think that you cannot be found based on your unique Instagram name, you can certainly be found on all of that. We have had multiple candidates that we have not moved forward with based on their racy pictures or their persona that they have put on that other platform. So that's all in what you want your perception to be. That impacts your career tremendously. And there's also a lot of individuals with very common names. I think that we have someone in the chat box talking about that as well. There are things, if your name is John Smith, I mean, if you have an initial, if you have your address, your phone number, all of those things attached back to you, and we can find out who you are out of the other John Smiths, if you will. So it's definitely something that we can find you, I guess is the point, on any platform.
So I think, and by the way, guys, I'm also trying to check the chat box, and Cody, I appreciate you asking that question. It looks like some others have jumped in on other social media platforms. One of the things that I saw pop up is not quite comfortable on some platforms. And so, Kev, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. And you're not a job seeker today. But a lot of service members in particular tell me that they are not sure how they feel about engaging on LinkedIn. And I think this is really honest. Just tell us your experience on LinkedIn so far.
Yeah. So, I mean, my LinkedIn, like my picture in LinkedIn was something that Candy took off of me smiling at her brother's wedding and put it up there, for example. So it took me a while. There was a comment in there, like, I'm not, like as Candy mentioned, I'm not really comfortable with social media. I'm really not on Facebook or Twitter. I have my own little hangups with social media. But as you get going, a lot of it, like when you get comfortable, it's not to say you have to start out and kind of be some bubbly, character in there, and all of a sudden everybody's staring at you. Really where a lot of it for me started is updating your profile, starting to understand LinkedIn, and just watching, just kind of seeing, finding the stuff that's interesting to you. As they were saying, is find something that's positive, that's always a good start, something that's positive, and kind of follow that. And you start seeing, and there's nothing remarkable about what I'm telling you. It's just simply put a thumbs up on something, and the world is not going to stop. No one's going to call you, be like, I cannot believe you put a thumb up on that. That's just insane. That's one, congratulations, that's so, admirable. And, part of it's Candy laughing at me because I've just been really uncomfortable with social media. So start by just being, kind of seeing it. It's, in a more of a guttural way, we were laughing about it. It's like drinking. Some people don't drink. I like to drink beer. So it's like you start out and you have a beer, and it's like, well, the world didn't stop because you had a beer. Nobody cares that you had a beer. And they probably don't care if you have 2 or 3. Not to say you want to turn into an alcoholic, but it's when you're doing these things, it's just kind of, it's not as scary as you may think. And you don't have to expose yourself in a way that you're uncomfortable. And you don't have to create, when we talk about creating the brand, it's not that you're creating some fraudulent self. You're really just kind of engaging a little bit to where your comfort level is. It's just making sure that you're aware of the industries that you're going after. And if you want to promote some positive stuff, to say you are engaged as a starting point. But that, it's kind of as a starting point. It gets a little more involved where you're, the episode you had in the beginning of the series goes into much more detail about how you can engage with recruiters and how you can engage. So I'd take some time to look at that initial video, but from a starting point. Does that make sense?
And Kev, I'm starting the screen share based on that. Great segue. Thank you. And Stephanie, while I do that, is there a downside to not having any LinkedIn engagement that you've seen when you guys are recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people that don't have profiles, they're new to it. So one, definitely have a picture. That's my pet peeve. Someone comes across and you can't see them. Like, why do they not put a picture up there? Don't put one in a bikini. Definitely agree there, but there's no reason. It makes it more personable. And so we can, okay, now like I know it's a real person and not a fake account. And then I would say always be authentic. So if you don't like anything, don't like anything just to like or make fake comments. Definitely you want to come off as an authentic person. And, you might not want to comment on everything or like everything. Be choiceful. I mean, I remember first joining LinkedIn, I never used to go on it. And then having to do recruiting, I definitely need to build my network and make connections with other companies, with recruiting sources, with candidates. So I definitely will like connect with lots of people and message folks. So there's nothing, I don't think there's really any limits. I personally am a big fan of the LinkedIn app on your phone. I don't know that I ever go on the desktop. So I sit there, I message people. It's, in my opinion, very convenient. So we'll sit and do recruiting calls with my specialist. And I'm like, oh, well, let me just see. I'll send that person a message right now. Okay, he's good. He can meet at this time. Can you schedule the interview? I'll tell him you're sending an email. So it's short of not having someone's phone number, the instant message capability on LinkedIn is great. So yeah, but I would say always come off as your authentic self. Don't do something that's fake or doesn't feel comfortable to you. Because you ultimately still want to be yourself in this whole process.
Yep. And so Kevin mentioned our very first session, we broke down a whole bunch of fundamentals of getting started on LinkedIn. So, if you are so interested, please check that out. Based on this conversation, I am going to share with you just a few ideas from that session that can help you build your brand, if you will. So again, your brand is really like your story. And the way that people start to tell what your story is by your engagements. And so even the way that you reach out to a recruiter, for example, can be part of your brand. So one of my colleagues posted an article on LinkedIn yesterday that I found really interesting. And she was talking about the intros, the way you reach out. And so in the first example, a job seeker reaches out to a recruiter and they say, what positions are you recruiting for? And really what this communicates is not sure of direction, haven't done research, I'm probably not quite ready, right? Not only that, it makes it really hard for the recruiter to help action on what those next steps are. In the second iteration, the job seeker reaches out and says, hi, Bill, my name is Jane Smith. I'm a Navy veteran. I'm looking for positions in Dallas. What positions are you recruiting for? So that's better, right? It's a little bit more focused, but the recruiter still has to do a lot of work. So when you reach out to a recruiter, this is a great example of now we have a ton of information that the recruiter then says, oh my goodness, I know what they're looking for. I know what their skills are. They've already done research. I know what location. This makes it my job a lot easier. And so basically what the job seeker has done for the recruiter is started to build a brand of, I know what I want. I know what my purpose is. I'm ready to provide you value. And they're very clear on the ask. Guys, listen, recruiters are working their asses off right now. Make their jobs easier so that they can help you. Okay. Again, this is all part of, these are tangible ways that you can start to craft your brand for other people. Again, we've talked about profile and settings. Like, make sure that your profile and settings communicate that you are ready to get into a civilian job. Make sure that your profile picture, again, smiling and professional, right? Because that's basically your digital handshake. Think about, just for context, if a recruiter goes and looks at your LinkedIn profile and you have incomplete sessions, what would that communicate to a recruiter, right? When they may want to reach out and send you a connect request and they get, you'll see the example in the bottom, they get a response that says an email is required. What does that communicate? And so these are all things, make sure that you're open, right? Make sure that you're friendly, and make sure that you are communicating more than just, I'm a transitioning veteran or I'm a military spouse, right? Like, make the recruiter's job easier. And engagement becomes part of your brand. And so engagement on LinkedIn is what really drives your exposure, because it helps people understand what areas that you're interested in. So just some quick places to start. Again, as you're thinking about building your brand, which is pie in the sky, but what are easy ways to get started? Number one, check your news feed every day, especially if you're looking for work. Like 2 to 3 posts that you find relevant, like Kevin mentioned. When you get braver, comment on 1 to 2 relevant posts per day that you find of interest, and please just be positive, right? Be super positive. And then when you're ready to start posting, some of us aren't there yet, Kev, but when you're ready to start posting, again, like our panelists have talked about, be genuine, be positive. If you need ideas for things to post about, show appreciation or highlight the hard work of somebody else and tag them. That starts to communicate that you are others first, which we all know that you are. And it starts to communicate that you want to be part of a team and to help others. Share what you learned from a meeting or training. If you don't know how on your computer to do a quick screen share, that is awesome, an awesome way for you to just say, oh, I was in this Zoom meeting earlier today. These are some of the things I learned. Again, it doesn't have to be some expert-driven advice as you think about sharing. So I just encourage you to think about, like, what are small steps? These are a couple of examples where, in this case, all Nikki did was reshare a post that I put out. And here's another example from Kyle Uptergrove. He basically highlighted a Veterati call. He tagged the person that spent that hour with him, and he shared what he learned. So again, posts don't have to be crazy long or crazy in depth. They just can be a way for you to start sharing, here's what I'm learning, and here's what I'm interested in. So Marcia, you have some information for us on resume writing, and we know that resumes, like you said before, they are part of your brand. In some ways, it's the first interaction of your brand with a recruiter. I'll turn it over to you at this point to talk about resumes.
Thank you, Candy. Yes, absolutely. So resume writing, I have been involved in multiple coaching opportunities when it comes to resume writing, and I hear all different levels of where people go to get that the template for the resume. And I'm not saying that our tips are absolutely the rule and not the exception. But I share what, as a recruiter, and what I know recruiters here at Mayo Clinic are looking for. And one of the things that we often don't see, unfortunately, is a phone number or a professional email. When people have used an email, sometimes they get very creative with the email address, and it's just like, finding them on LinkedIn with a funny looking picture. A funny looking email account can kind of give you pause. But anyway, a phone number, if you have one, and if you don't, if you want to use your phone number, at least an email. But remember, if the manager has additional questions to ask you about your resume, they need to get a hold of you by calling you. They're not going to email you. So make it easy for that recruiter and that hiring manager to reach you if they have additional questions. Education. Please, please, please make sure that you meet the basic qualification of the job when it comes to education. If the job says it requires you to have a bachelor's degree and you only have an associate's degree, you will automatically be disqualified. So do not apply. And I personally like to see that education on the top, the first thing right under your summary. Because if for some reason you do not meet that basic qualification of the education, then I know that I don't need to move forward with you. So make sure you list that education. Professional work experience, make always at the top. So your current one, the one that fits that job that you're applying for. Put that on the top. Some people like to put it in chronologically by dates or by year. But I say that if it's really, really matches the qualification that you are applying for the job that you're applying for, put it on the top, because that will absolutely help the manager or the recruiter, you know, look at it and say, yes, this person qualifies. Just like the military, Mayo uses a lot of acronyms, but please do not use acronyms on your resume, because not everyone is is a veteran or ex-military or works at Mayo Clinic. So avoid using acronyms because it will help the recruiter understand what you're really trying to bring out on your resume. List your technical skills and strengths, please, because that's how we get to know what your skills are right away, and if they match the job posting. Quantify accomplishments. I'm sorry. List them. Some people say, well, you know, if I list everything, it's going to be too long. List them, especially if you're in the military, because those accomplishments, sometimes, believe it or not, will give you that push or bring you up on top of that qualification that you might be missing somewhere else. And whatever you do, have someone do a peer review for your resume. Correct spelling and grammar is very, very critical. You know, I don't understand why we still get resumes where people misspell words when we have word check and word spell. I don't understand, but it still happens. So be very careful and make sure that you have someone else review your resume, make sure that you haven't missed anything like that. And just do a whole document to check your grammar and your correct spelling. And again, like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, this is your first impression and introduction to the hiring manager. So make it count. If the recruiter is going to read your resume, is going to say, oh yeah, he or she qualifies based on the qualifications. But when the manager reads your resume, they're really going to get to know you by either your cover letter and also by your resume. So tailoring your resume, connect the dots for recruiters and hiring managers who are overwhelmed by a flood of generic applicants. When, like I mentioned earlier, you know, our nursing new residency program, we list those, we post those for 3 days, and in 3 days we get thousands of applicants. So please, 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 whatever you do, connect the dots on that resume, so to make it easier for the process. For you and for us. Instead of providing that you're an experienced professional in general, please give us a specific, describe on your resume what is it that makes you this experienced professional. It will help us see why you're that perfect fit, because there could be someone else that might be a perfect fit. But if your description is better than theirs, you are definitely going to be the one that we focus on. A job description says, these are the skills we need and the qualifications we're looking for. And then the generic resume says, oh, I have all this experience. Or I'll leave it up to you to figure out. Or I like this one, I will tell you about it during the interview. Well, guess what? If this is not on the resume, you might not make it to the interview to tell us. So again, this is your first opportunity to tell us, you know, why you should be considered. And of course, the tailored resume says, here's an easy to read roadmap of where I acquired and I developed each of the required skills and qualifications. And trust me, so many times, these resumes are the ones that managers will fight over, because someone has applied to multiple positions with this resume. And then our process. So our process basically is what we're asking for. Match your required skills. You know, go to the job posting, go to the job description, and look at those words, those keywords that will help you. If you add them to your resume, it will help you be the one that stands out and comes to the top of the list. You know, sometimes some recruiters do word search, you know, during so they can see on the resume where they find those specific words based on the skills. So do that. You know, go to the job description and look at those words that you can add to your resume that will help us identify you as the right candidate. And then the cover letter. There's multiple tips about the cover letter. I've had individuals say, oh, some people say I don't need a cover letter. Well, I say, don't be lazy, do a cover letter. Research the department, including initiatives and projects. Visit our career page, because if you're applying for something in nursing or applying for something in IT, we have everything posted. We are very transparent. So research the department, research the company, talk about us or bring us up when you finally do interview. We love to hear others talk about our company, Mayo Clinic. So research the department that you're hoping to land a job in. And again, like I mentioned earlier, review the job description. It's very important that you review the job description to make sure that you qualify for that job. And then the elements you want to include is a winning opening paragraph. That always will catch our eye and will allow us to continue reading in a more interested way. Express your interest. Don't be afraid to express why you're interested in coming to work at Mayo Clinic or working at this department. Highlight relevant knowledge and skill sets, and especially those that you gained in the military, because trust me, we want to make sure that those skills are transparent and they match what we're looking for. And
hey Marcia, I just wanted to mention, I don't want to call any names, right?
No.
But I just sent you a referral from somebody that I knew, and one of the things that really impressed me was the time this person had taken to articulate requirements versus their skills, even in the cover letter. And so I just wanted to, the effort really goes a long way, especially when you're thinking about asking people to give you referrals and that kind of thing.
Yes. And the other thing that you'll be asked, and be ready to answer this, is, and especially if you write it on your cover letter, what will you bring to the table? Why should we consider you? How will you positively contribute to Mayo Clinic? And this is one of the questions that you'll be asked when you do move into the interview part of the process. And then look up the Mayo Clinic values. We are very proud of our values. Tie that in your cover letter. Tell us how it is, or how will you, or what are you doing to on your everyday life or in your work environment to that matches our Mayo Clinic values. And then finally, I'm going to say, people say, oh, it should only be one page. Typically, yes, it should only be one page, your resume. But if you have a lot of years of experience that you feel that need to be said, that we need to know about, and it's going to help you be recognized and considered for this position, don't be afraid to add that. You might want to remove your interest or your hobbies, maybe that doesn't come to play, but make sure that you do include anything and everything that we need to know about your employment skills and background and experience.
Marcia, thank you so much. Listen, here's the deal, guys. This is all about helping you hear directly from employers that are actively seeking your skills. You're not going to get everything that you need from any of these sessions. And so the other thing that we wanted to do, I know that a bunch of you have mentioned some ideas in the chat box. Other resume resources that I think are always incredibly helpful. JobScan is an awesome tool. There is a new technology called Infuego technology that I think is going to be making some pretty significant waves in the future. Indeed is a great resource. LinkedIn Learning. So if you go to LinkedIn Learning and search military resume, you'll find some great videos that can help you with this translation. There are a number of veteran service organizations that do resume support specifically for service members, veterans, and spouses. Seek those out. They're super easy to find with a quick search on LinkedIn. There are also professional military and veteran resume writers that will personally work with you on this. I put it in the chat box, but we are honored. Lori Norris is actually on our call today. And Lori, I see you popping great information to that chat box. Thank you. I work with Lori. And so again, she is one of many professional military and veteran resume writers. If you feel like you need that extra support, go get it. So a couple of friendly reminders as we wrapped up. You guys, we don't have a lot of time for Q&A today. So I do apologize, but we've had so much great content, and as the questions are coming in, we'll try to get some answers, and I can email those out after. But just some friendly reminders that I want to share with everybody. You know, again, please leverage LinkedIn to help you build your brand. Find your tribe of mentors. I cannot recommend Veterati enough. Engage directly with those working in industry. You want to get out of your bubble of just talking to people that you're serving with, or even frankly, just talking to people that work in veteran serving organizations. Find civilians in industry and listen to the culture and language and day in the life of what they can share with you about what they do. Open every single door for DoD SkillBridge. For those of you that are active duty, don't wait on a placement. Open every door. Again, we did a session fully focused on SkillBridge. We welcome you to join us every Thursday. Again, one avenue for you. There are lots of engagement opportunities throughout the week directly with many organizations and companies. Next week, I think I mentioned this, but again, we are going to have I reached out to Amazon and they're like, the whole team's coming. So we have the whole Amazon team coming back next week, and we're specifically talking about acing the interview. So many of you have already been sending me LinkedIn messages that you'd like to volunteer to do the mock interview. Thank you for that. So again, join us next week. The week after that, we have ADP, Rico, and Pepsi are joining us. And then the week after that, I think we have Booz Allen Hamilton. Don't quote me on that. I'm going off memory. But guys, every week we have new employers coming in to share new and fresh perspective with you. One thing I want to leave you with, we are 2 minutes before our end time. One thing I want to leave you with is something that I saw on LinkedIn this week that I thought was really helpful, that I just wanted to share. What people think happens when you make a career change is that you completely start over from day one. What actually happens, and this is incredibly relevant for all of you that are transitioning out of the military, and by the way, student veterans, that is still transition, right? But what actually happens is you bring all that rich past experience with you, you learn faster, you challenge us all, and you basically gain a whole new perspective. So just cheers to everybody reinventing themselves. Again, I appreciate some of the vulnerability I've seen in the chat box. We know that what you're going through is hard. We know it because Kevin lived it and I was here with him. And the whole point of this is we want you to know that we're here to offer support. Importantly, our employer partners want to offer support. They're the ones that have the jobs. So join us each week. With that, I want to say thank you to Stephanie, Latasha, and Marcia. We have a couple minutes. Any last parting words of wisdom that you guys want to throw out?
I actually do. As we're talking about being your brand and being authentic, also make sure that if you find a job and someone's working with you, that maybe you close the loop with them or reach out, or make sure you respond. Because you never know, again, you could be looking for a job again or trying to network, and that person will have a negative thought because you never answered the email, you never responded to the phone call, you never did all those things. That's part of your personal brand. So make sure that you close the loop and respond to people. That's definitely key. I can't tell you how many times I've been disappointed and I'm like, okay, and then that person comes up again. You never know when you might need to make a career change, and building that network, you can come back to those people if you have a good relationship.
Wow, that's a great, great point, Stephanie. Thank you so much.
The only thing that I would add to that is, one, make sure you guys know that we're not advocating that you create Facebook, Instagram, and all those other platforms. If you're not comfortable, that is totally fine. But we are advocating that you do create a LinkedIn. Because at least over 40% of our hires, I'm sure all of us, are through a network or through some form of referral, whether it's from an employee or just our network. So please, I cannot stress to you enough the importance of creating LinkedIn, sending messages, appropriate messages, as Candy gave you some details on how to do that. Build your network so that you rise to the top of any other candidate.
That's right.
I have to second the ladies, everything they said. A thank you, and especially a thank you, at least a thank you email to say that, you know, regardless if you got the job or not, thank you for helping me get through the process.
Awesome. Marcia, Latasha, Stephanie, thank you so much for being with us. Kev, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Thank
Good time.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for attending.
Bye.
Thanks, Candy.
Bye.